care is not a nicety. It's a necessity. If we want to help our students to really excel, be productive, be happy, healthy, and engaged.
Burned out nursing faculty don't just struggle, they model burnout for students, fueling a cycle that harms the future of nursing. But when we support and invest in faculty well-being, we empower the next generation to thrive. Welcome to the Lippincott Spark, Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Drees. Join us as we ignite your passion for nursing education and leadership. We'll explore the latest trends, hear from expert nurses, and provide tools to keep you inspired. Let's dive into today's episode and continue your professional development journey together. Burnout is a silent epidemic in nursing education, affecting both faculty and students alike. Did you know that many educators struggle with unhealthy lifestyles, unintentionally demonstrating poor self-care habits to future nurses? In this episode, we shine a light on the critical issue of burnout and explore the evidence-based strategies for enhancing health and well-being. Joining us is the inspirational Dr. Bernadette Melnick, CEO and founder of Cope to Thrive, president and co-founder of EBP Solutions, and former chief wellness officer at The Ohio State University. Dr. Melnick is a recognized leader in evidence-based practice, mental health, and organizational culture change. She brings a wealth of knowledge and passion to our conversation today. Welcome, Bern.
I am delighted to join you today, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you as well. So let's begin by setting the stage for our listeners. What is the current prevalence of burnout and mental health problems in nursing faculty and students today?
That's a great question. So I'm going to start with burnout in the nursing and healthcare workforce, and then get into faculty-student burnout and mental health issues. You know, Kelly, we had an epidemic of mental health problems prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Everything escalated during the pandemic. And I really think a lot of people feel that we've returned to pre-COVID-19 levels by now. But that really has not happened. 40 to 60% of practicing nurses and other healthcare professionals are burnt out. I did a national study of nursing faculty that I published recently because we really didn't have a pulse on faculty burnout. What my study showed was 1 out of 3 nursing faculty were reporting being burnt out. And if faculty are burnt out, it's obviously going to affect the students. And there's so much literature out there to show nursing students have higher burnout rates and mental health problems than other students.
You know, and I think about the reasons why our faculty are burning out, you know, with the high workload, perhaps their orientation wasn't as robust as it was, you know, as needed, the resources, the funding, you know, transitioning from that problem to a solution. What role do faculty play in promoting well-being in their students and building wellness cultures in academic institutions?
Culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I will tell you, Kelly, if our faculty are not role modeling, if they are not walking the talk in terms of good self-care, we're going to keep producing generations of nursing students that don't learn how to take good self-care. On that culture piece, people sometimes will downplay that a little bit, but seriously, culture impacts how people feel and how they behave. So if we have a culture of nursing faculty that are working 24/7, and we know from my national studies, only 20% meet the evidence-based guidelines for physical activity, healthy eating, sleep, stress reduction. So faculty in particular, and I love our nursing faculty, don't get me wrong, but faculty often increase burden on themselves by the number of assignments that they require from students. And we also do a lot of teaching of what's nice to know, not necessarily what the students really need to know. And if we got rid of the super nice stuff that people ever hardly see, we would have room in our curriculum to implement evidence-based interventions that we know would improve our students' mental health and resiliency.
Diving into those practical strategies, you mentioned a couple of them, and the evidence-based strategies that have been proven effective in preventing burnout and promoting health and well-being. Can you name a few others that might help faculty and, of course, then their students? Because it's filling their bucket so that they can do their job. And as many of us have flown in planes, they say, put your own oxygen mask on first. So what are some other strategies that you've seen work?
For one, faculty need to cut out meetings. We are over meeting out, truly. We meet for the sake of meetings. I did a survey being chief wellness officer at Ohio State. I did a survey of let's get rid of stupid stuff. Because seriously, system issues need fixed that are broken. So I asked the question, if we could get rid of what you see as stupid bureaucratic stuff, what would you suggest we eliminate? And then what would be the solution for this? I tell you, one of the first highest frequent responses was we have way too many meetings. And there's research that's been done recently that showed if we can decrease meetings by 40%, productivity increases by 70%. That's evidence-based. And I used to, when I taught, I always would start my classes with a little mindfulness, a little movement and physical activity. But think about this. If we'd even cut meetings by 10 minutes, we could then have 10 minutes of a recovery break that people could walk the stairs, put on music and dance. I used to do movement. You can do this even on Zoom with students. We used to play the Buckeye Fight song, and I would have students march, move, stretch, dance. If we're not building this into our curricula, students aren't going to learn. It can't be an afterthought. Self-care is not a nicety. It's a necessity. If we want to help our students to really excel, be productive, be happy, healthy, and engaged.
I love that. Sometimes faculty will say easier said than done. So if we're talking about behavior change, why is it so challenging for nursing professionals to prioritize their own well-being? And how can we overcome this barrier?
Well, it gets back to the comment you made earlier. We do a great job taking care of everybody else, but we don't do a good job at self-care. So that paradigm has got to shift. But behavior change is what I call so character building, even for ourselves. Most people don't change unless crisis happens or their emotions are raised. So I often tell stories like when I give keynotes, I want to raise people's emotions so that they will get motivated to do something a little differently to better their self-care. Kelly, I don't know if you know, but my mom stroked out and died right in front of me when I was
Oh, no.
15 years
Oh,
of
wow.
age. As a teenager, you can imagine, I suffered from terrible post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. And I was taken to my family physician like 5 months later because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't doing well in school. Sadly, that physician did what so many healthcare providers do first line still today in 2025. He got out the prescription pad, wrote a script for Valium, said, give Bern one of these every night. She'll sleep and be just fine. There was no evidence-based cognitive behavior therapy back in my rural little coal mining town. And I remember taking a Valium that night. I slept for the first time in months, but I woke up groggy. And I said, I don't like this feeling. I just got to gut it up and cope. But here's the saddest part of my mother's story. She had severe headaches for about a year. My dad kept saying, go to the doctor, figure out what's wrong. She went to her family physician 1 week before she died. Her diagnosis, high blood pressure, given a prescription for a blood pressure medication that my dad found in her purse after she died. She never took it. But think about this. Have you seen the new high blood pressure guidelines that we just released? I was on that blood pressure committee representing our American Association of Nurse Practitioners. But we're getting so much more aggressive about early intervention, healthy lifestyle behavior change. But again, that's really character building. And a lot of people don't feel they have the time in their practices to really do a lot of motivational interviewing and storytelling to emote people to make a change. It's tough.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry to hear that about your mom, and obviously so traumatizing, to a young teenager, and then how it carries forward. And I can only imagine many of our students have some of those same stories. And as we think about how do we recognize students, traumas and the things that they bring to the table, and they're sitting in our classrooms, and recognize that and how it's definitely impacting their ability to care for themselves and their whole well-being, right?
I strongly believe things happen in our life for a purpose. And what happened to me as a teenager, and if we had more time, I'd tell you what happened in the next 4 years, because I had a lot of loss in the next 4 years too. But what it did was create a passion in me to become a nurse, then a pediatric nurse practitioner, then a psych NP, and go on and get my PhD so I could develop my evidence-based cognitive behavior therapy-based COPE program that can be delivered by non-psychiatric providers as well as mental health providers. And Kelly, my COPE program is now being used in all 50 states with reimbursement. K-12 schools, universities are implementing it. And I have a new nurse practitioner trainer program. So there's a lot of colleges now delivering COPE to their students as part of required curriculum, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So we just gotta find ways to integrate what we know works into our curricula. There's a way to do it, but sadly, it's just like healthcare. People are used to doing things the way they've always done it. And it's character building for faculty who have taught a course or two for 10 years and being successful in what they do to think about changing the way we teach. It's tough.
Like you said, if we had a longer time to chit chat, or even part two, I had a similar situation with my mom. She had lost a child, and her mother-in-law came to help, and actually she found her passed away in the bed the next morning, got into a terrible car accident and life-changing, and then realized, you know what, I want to be a nurse. I want to go back. I've received such wonderful care and support, and ended up being a hospice nurse for death and dying, and parish nurse and whatnot. And I love your story because it really framed who you are and what you have become, such a wonderful nurse, but also a wonderful leader who has helped so many people through, your research and, as you had said, your Cope to Thrive initiatives as well. So that's fantastic. And I know you have a book, 12 Keys to Health, Happiness, and Well-Being for Nurses and the Healthcare Workforce, which offers such valuable insights. It's amazing. Can you share a few key takeaways from your book that educators and students can apply today?
Kelly, thank you so much for mentioning that book. I did it with my wonderful co-editors, Drs. Ellis Teal and Kate Golick. Here's what's a differentiator about the book. Remember, we talked about most people not changing until crisis happens. In the book, we raise people's emotions. And the way we do it from the beginning of the book, we have people face their true story and rewrite a new one. It's not easy to face our true stories, but self-assessment is a really key piece of how we start that book. And it really goes through all the dimensions of well-being. But what's really different about the book, it has a skills building workbook that accompanies it. So people, students, nurses, healthcare professionals can put the content from the book into daily practice. Because bottom line, it takes 30 to 66 days to make or break a new health habit. And we help people do that in that book. I'm really excited to tell you that we planned that book so that whatever course a faculty is teaching, they can integrate that book into the course in a very feasible, acceptable, easy way. So I encourage everybody to check that book out. It can do a lot of good if you put the content into practice.
Let's address now a little bit about the culture of self-sacrifice in nursing. We sacrifice our own health and well-being. We care deeply for others, but we neglect ourselves, our self-care. So how can we shift this mindset and make self-care a priority? What are some strategies that if somebody was going to make that decision, today, how do they start?
For one, they got to find their reason. Again, it gets back to the emotion. And I always tell everybody, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones that want you to be around a really long time. I didn't have a mother to see me graduate from high school, college, go on to have my beautiful 3 daughters, my 4 little grandchildren now. When I don't feel like, because there are mornings, I'm a very avid exerciser, but there are mornings when I get up that I don't feel like taking my 3-mile run walk and taking my character building little pugs with me on the first mile of that walk. When I don't feel like it, I put those beautiful family faces in front of me and I say, I do it for them. So that's where you got to start. Think about your loved ones that want you to be around a super long time. You cannot keep pouring from an empty cup. And just like you schedule your classes in, just like you schedule writing of grants or publications in, you've got to schedule and prioritize self-care. Because if you don't, think about this, Kelly, 80% of chronic disease is totally preventable with just a few healthy lifestyle behaviors, physical activity, 5 fruits and veggies a day, don't smoke. And as we put in the latest blood pressure guideline, if you don't drink alcohol, don't start, because it's linked to cancers now. But if you do, no more than 2 standard drinks a day if you're a man, no more than 1 if you're a woman. And then everybody asks me, Bern, how big can that drink be? And I tell them, standard, but put 7 hours of sleep on top of that and daily stress reduction practice. And you're going to cut your risk of chronic disease by 80%. If we don't take time to do these things now, we're going to have to take time for chronic disease later.
That's it. After this podcast, I'm going to take a walk. I'm getting my grocery list of fruits and vegetables ready. So let's end with a spark. What's one powerful message or takeaway you hope will ignite change in how we approach well-being in academia?
We got to have a paradigm shift. We are so sick care, crisis care oriented. We're always going to need great sick and crisis care. But unless we, as faculty, as nurses, as healthcare professionals, make that shift to one of wellness and prevention, we're still going to see 65% of Americans having chronic disease. It's got to start with us. We have to role model it. And Kelly, I'm going to ask everybody a question that I always ask. If I were your fairy god person and give you any dream or wish you could accomplish in the next 5 to 7 years, what are you going to do if you know you cannot fail? We got to help people get their dreams back on the front burner again. But those dreams are not going to be accomplished if we don't prioritize our own self-care.
I love that. Dream big, but you have to be healthy in order to live those dreams. So thank you so much, Bern, for sharing your insights for wellness and nursing education. This episode has definitely illuminated the urgent need for faculty to really model those healthy behaviors and embed well-being into the curriculum. And I hope our listeners feel inspired to take action. I know I do, both personally and professionally. Whether you're an educator or student or academic leader, remember the journey to well-being starts with taking one intentional step. So let this conversation be your spark to prioritize self-care, champion wellness in your institutions, and empower the next generation of nurses to thrive, not just survive. Thanks again, Bern.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Lippincott Spark, Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. Enjoy this episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a 5-star review. For more information, click on the link below to learn more about Lippincott Nursing products and services. Until next time, keep leading, learning, and making a difference in nursing education.